He slammed the keys on the kitchen counter like punctuation at the end of an insult. "Ungrateful," he said, loud enough for the microwave to hear it. I didn't respond. Not when the cabinet door swung open behind his back. Not when the spoon clinked against the rim of my coffee mug. Not even when he stood there, hand on his hip like he was waiting for applause, as if calling the woman who cleaned his mother's hospice sheets ungrateful was some kind of mic drop. I just sipped slow, not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I'd already said it. 2 years ago, 3 times, and once on my birthday. My name is Valerie Denise Harris. I'm 48 years old, and this is the story of how I learned that silence can be louder than revenge. That house, the little tan ranch off Magnolia Lane with the swing on the porch and the cracked sidewalk up to the mailbox, that was supposed to be our forever. We bought it after Marcus got his severance from the Ford plant down in Belvedere. Said we'd fix it up one room at a time, paint the shutters blue, put up those solar lights from Home Depot he kept swearing were a good deal. And we did. Sort of. At least at first. The yard stayed mowed. The grill stayed hot. We used to fall asleep watching Wheel of Fortune with the windows open, letting in that sticky Illinois summer air that smelled like cut grass and somebody's barbecue drifting from 3 houses down. Back then, my biggest worry was lesson plans. I taught 2nd grade at Lincoln Elementary. He ran small contracts, remodeling kitchens, redoing cabinets, replacing rotted-out doors on rental properties around town. It wasn't glamorous, but it was ours. We called ourselves a team. At least until one day it felt like I was the only one clocked in. The tone shifted slow, like weather changing in your joints before you see the clouds. One day his voice had new weight, not louder, just heavier. "You lucky I even kept your name on the deed," he said one night, folding his tool apron like it was silk instead of stained canvas. I blinked. "You didn't keep my name. We signed together." He gave that half-laugh men use when they're trying to sound smarter than the paperwork. Still, I could have made it messy. He was talking about the time we almost split. When he found texts from my cousin Deja warning me to stop being his maid. He hated Deja after that, said she was poison, always in my ear. But it wasn't Deja that changed how I saw him, it was him. There's a certain kind of silence that fills a house when love has packed up, but the bodies are still moving. It's the clink of separate forks in the sink, the dryer buzz that nobody bothers to stop, the washing machine still running, but only one side of the closet getting restocked, the faint smell of his Newports curling through the back door screen long after his apologies gone cold. I'd come home from school, kick off my teacher flats and find him in the den, feet up, remote in hand, phone glowing with DMs he swore were just jokes. "Why you always looking at me sideways?" he asked one Tuesday, half watching SportsCenter. I didn't answer. He hated that more than cussing, said I thought I was better than him now, just 'cause I had tenure and a summer break. "You ungrateful," he said again that night. "You know how many women would love to be in your position?" I wanted to ask what position that was, wife or inmate, co-owner or unpaid nanny. But instead, I rinsed my cup, set it in the rack, and let the silence finish the sentence for me. The week it started to unravel for real was the same week I burned the cornbread. Not just overcooked, burned. Whole kitchen smelled like charcoal and shame. He walked in, sniffed the air, and said, "Damn, even the food tired of your attitude." That one cut deep because I hadn't said a word to him all day, hadn't fought, hadn't sighed, just existed. Still, it was too much for him. "You mad again?" he said, reaching for the Kool-Aid pitcher. "Must be nice waking up every day with a grudge and a pension." I watched the red liquid swirl, staining the counter. Thought about how easy it is to make a mess and then act like it's someone else's job to clean it up. What he didn't know is I'd already started pulling the files. The dusty manila folder with our mortgage papers, the closing statement from 2008, the receipt for the water heater I paid for out of my own checking account when he forgot to move money from the joint one. I wasn't plotting. Not yet. I was remembering. remembering that my name was on the paperwork, that I was the one who called in sick the day of the inspection, the one who stood at the county office filing for the homestead exemption while he was still deciding between Bud Light and Modelo, the one who stayed, even when I shouldn't have. And for the first time in years, that memory felt like a door creaking open. July 4th came with fireworks and vinegar. We hosted like always. Plastic tables in the yard, hot dogs popping on the grill, Kool-Aid pickles sweating in a Tupperware bowl. His cousins played dominoes on the porch, Bluetooth speaker crackling with old Southern soul. Kids chased sparklers down the driveway. I made potato salad. He made jokes. "Don't eat the mac and cheese unless you like it dry," he shouted, plastic cup raised. Everybody laughed with him, even his mama, especially her. I smiled tight and wiped my eyes with a paper towel, told them I had something in them. That night, I slept in the guest room, left the window cracked just enough to smell the neighbor's citronella candles and pretend I was anywhere else. It wasn't one big betrayal that broke me. It was the 1,000 little ones. Like the Sunday I found out he'd been renting out our detached garage to one of his barbershop friends. No lease, no notice, no cut for me. Or the Tuesday he told me, "You ain't got nowhere to go anyway." That one didn't sting. It settled. Settled deep in my bones like winter chill in old joints. Because that's when I realized something important. He thought I was stuck. He thought the house held me hostage. He thought being quiet meant being scared. But my silence? That was me listening to the sound of my own strength returning. 2 days later, I called the realtor. Black woman from Joliet. Name was DeAndrea. "Is your name on the deed?" she asked, voice steady like she'd handled 100 stories just like mine. "Yes, ma'am. First and last." "Then you can sell," she said. "Cash buyers are hungry this summer." I looked out the front window at the rose bush he never watered but always bragged about to company, and I smiled, not big, just enough to feel it move in my chest like something unfolding that had been folded too long. I didn't slam anything, didn't curse, didn't make a speech. I just took another sip of coffee and listened to the quiet stretch wide around me. Because sometimes, before a woman can start over, she has to stop explaining why. The day I called the realtor, I cleaned the kitchen like it was a crime scene. Every plate, every counter, even the ceiling fan blades. Those too, with the step stool I used to keep behind the fridge. Not because I expected a showing that day, but because I needed to reclaim the space. I wiped until the rag turned gray, until the lemon cleaner burned the back of my throat, until every corner of that kitchen stopped smelling like him and started smelling like freedom trying to take shape. Then I lit one of those cheap 3-wick candles from Dollar General. Vanilla lavender, his least favorite. Let it burn straight through, slow and stubborn. That was the day I stopped waiting for gratitude. The day I stopped cooking for someone who forgot how to say thank you. The day I realized love shouldn't feel like a full-time job with no benefits. DeAndrea came by that Friday. She was sharp, navy pantsuit, cork heels, a gold tablet case tucked under her arm, hair slicked back in a bun that didn't move, not even in the wind. She reminded me of the women who sat on the front pew at New Hope Baptist, the ones whose pocketbooks never touched the floor. She walked in like she had purpose, like she could see beyond the mess of my emotions and straight into the equity of my peace. "Nice place," she said, looking around. "You got good bones here." She meant the house, but something in me took it personal, like maybe I had good bones too, ones that had bent but never broke. I walked her through like I was giving a tour of a memory. That old Sears bookshelf in the living room, still leaning a little to the left, the sticky cabinet under the sink that swelled every rainy day, the bedroom we repainted together after the first storm tore off the siding back in 2010. When we still laughed through problems and kissed through arguments. "So you still live in here?" she asked, voice gentle, eyes kind. "For now," I said. "But I'm not rooted." She nodded slow, snapping a picture of the back deck with her phone. "Good. she said. Makes it easier when the papers hit. Her tone wasn't cold. It was firm. The kind of firm that made you believe your own choices were valid. Marcus didn't notice. Not that day, not the next. He came home like always. Boots tossed in the hallway, belt dropped on the recliner, remote grabbed before he even said hello. "Dinner ready?" he called out, already turning on ESPN. I said, "I'm not hungry." He frowned. "Suit yourself." That was it. No questions, no curiosity. Just entitlement passing for routine. And for once, that didn't hurt. It confirmed what I already knew, that the silence between us had stopped being a gap and started being a decision. Saturday morning, I got up before the sun. Coffee. Quiet. Air still soft and blue around the edges. I pulled every file I owned into a cardboard box, the ones labeled house, taxes, receipts, even that dusty folder from the bank with the water heater warranty, all of it. Drove to the UPS store, humming low the whole way, like my spirit needed background music. Made copies of everything, watched the machine feed pages one by one, light flashing over my name like it was confirming something sacred. Back home, I opened my laptop and made a new folder, Magnolia Final. Inside it went the original deed, proof of insurance, mortgage payoff letter, and one scanned note from my grandmother. A piece of notebook paper folded soft with age, her handwriting like loops of prayer. When a woman pays the bills, she earns the right to leave the table if grace ain't said. I read that line 3 times, maybe 4. It hit different now that I was the woman she was talking about. Then I emailed DeAndrea the files. No hesitation, no second guessing. Just the soft click of a new beginning leaving my inbox. The first cash offer came in Monday. Full asking price. Buyer out of Peoria. Retired military. No loan, no inspection drama, no questions. Said he'd even take the house as is. DeAndrea called me right after school let out. "You ready?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. I was still sitting in the parking lot of Lincoln Elementary, watching little kids run toward parents' cars. Ice cream fingers, untied shoes, giggles bouncing off asphalt. One of my students, Kaylin, waved at me from her mom's minivan window. I waved back, smiling through tears I didn't even bother to wipe. "Yes," I said finally, my voice steady, low. "I'm ready." And I meant it. Tuesday evening, I cooked dinner, not for him, for me. Baked catfish, collard greens, one tiny skillet of cornbread. The good kind, with a hint of sugar just to make the edges crisp. He came in around 7, sniffed the air like a bloodhound. "You didn't make enough for both of us?" I shrugged. "Didn't know if you'd be home." He frowned, confused by calm. "I'm always home." "Exactly," I said, without looking up. He shifted his weight, trying to find his footing in a house that no longer revolved around him. "You actin' funny," he said. "No," I said softly. "Just peaceful." He hated that word. Peaceful. Said it sounded like something women said right before they left or changed the locks. He wasn't wrong. By Wednesday, the appraisal was scheduled. By Thursday, I had signed the seller disclosures. Everything moved faster than my nerves, but slower than my faith. Then Friday came, the day he found out. Not from me, from his cousin Terrence. The same Terrence who borrowed $60 from me in 2019 and still hadn't paid it back. The same one who swore he'd get me next week every time he saw me at Family Dollar. He pulled up that afternoon in his dusty Dodge and spotted the big white "Coming Soon" sign staked in the yard. He texted Marcus before his engine even cooled. Marcus came home at 3:42 p.m. I remember the time because I was still in my work clothes, grading spelling quizzes on the couch. The afternoon light came through the blinds, striping the room in gold and quiet. The front door opened hard. He stood there like a storm walking upright. "What the hell is this?" I looked up slow. "What's what?" He waved his phone, voice already cracked with anger. "This, you trying to sell the damn house." I flipped a page in my gradebook. "Why you acting brand new, Marcus? You said I was ungrateful. Thought I'd prove you right." That stopped him for half a second, long enough for the silence to do its job. Then he started pacing. "You triflin', disloyal, vengeful." His words hit the wall but slid off me like rain. "You can't sell what ain't yours," he barked. I let him go for 5 full minutes, just listening, watching him spin in the space he used to control. Then I stood, calm as Sunday morning, and walked to the hall closet, pulled out the manila folder, laid it on the coffee table like evidence in a courtroom. "Page 2, I said. "Check whose name is on the title, in bold, black ink." He didn't even open it, just stared at the folder like it was glowing. Finally, he asked the question that made my lips twitch. Not a smile, not quite, but close. "You really gonna do this?" I leaned in just enough for him to smell the lavender candle still burning faint in the kitchen. "I already did." That night, he didn't sleep in our bed. Neither did I. I took the guest room, the one with the soft blue curtains and the scent of cedar from the drawer sachets I kept tucked away. I slept with the window cracked, the night air cool against my skin. Somewhere, outside, a train moaned low in the distance. A dog barked once, then quit. And in that stillness, I breathed. Not the shallow kind I used to do when we argued, but deep, full, free. I lay there with my hands folded across my chest, feeling the rhythm of my own heart, breathing like a woman whose name had weight again, breathing like someone who finally remembered she had options, because that's what freedom sounds like sometimes. Not a scream, not a song, just breathing. By the time the for sale sign hit the grass, the whole block was buzzing. Mrs. Elkins from 3 doors down stopped mid-dog walk, her little Shih Tzu tugging the leash like it sensed gossip brewing. "Y'all movin'?" she whispered, voice full of nosy sweetness. I smiled, calm and unbothered. Transitions are healthy. She blinked, twice, like I'd just recited scripture she couldn't quite interpret. Then she nodded, half-hearted, still watching me like the words might rearrange themselves into the truth once I closed the door. That was fine. I didn't know her translation. Across the street, old Mr. Kemp pretended to trim his hedges, but I saw his phone camera glint. Small towns didn't need news stations. They had front porches and group texts. Marcus avoided me that whole day. Not a word, not a grunt. Not even one of those passive-aggressive post-its he used to leave when he wanted to seem civilized while being cruel. He just stomped from room to room, making noise instead of sentences. Cabinet doors slammed, drawers rattled, the back door banged so hard the picture frame tilted. He thought silence was his weapon. He didn't know I'd already mastered that language. The quiet didn't scare me anymore. It sounded like progress. That night I baked blueberry muffins from scratch. Not because I wanted them, but because the smell steadied me. The butter hissed low in the pan. The sugar melted slow, sweet, sticky on my fingers. I spooned the batter into the old muffin tin, the one with the dented edge where it dropped once in 2015. When the oven door closed, it felt final, like sealing a chapter I'd already reread too many times. The house filled with the smell of calm, sugar, heat, and new beginnings. He came into the kitchen, eyes darting between me and the muffins like they were a trap. "You really gonna throw all this away?" he asked, voice softer than I expected, though the edge was still there. I turned off the oven timer. "Nothing that's mine is getting thrown away." He laughed sharp through his nose. "You trying to be poetic now?" I wiped my hands on the towel, looked him dead in the eye. "No, I'm trying to be free." That shut him up. He stood there for a moment, lost between pride and panic, then left without another word. The sound of the door closing behind him was the cleanest silence I'd ever heard. The next morning, he tried logic. "We don't gotta do all this," he said, while lacing his boots. His voice had that soft tone men use when they're scared, but pretending it's reason. I was sipping my tea, letting the steam fog my glasses. He looked at me, jaw set. "I built this place for us." "No, Marcus," I said, slow and even. "We built it, but only one of us tried to keep it standing." He stopped lacing. Looked up, eyes glassy like maybe he didn't expect the mirror I was holding up. For a moment, I almost saw the man I used to pray with, the one who used to bring me gas station flowers just because. Then he looked away. At the doorway, at his boots, at anything that wasn't accountability. He stood there a beat too long, then left. The sound of the truck engine starting outside was his answer. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed. D'Andrea. Buyer ready to close ASAP. You want to set a final move-out date? I stared at the screen. What date does a woman pick to end a life? I scrolled through the calendar, thumb hovering over weeks that used to mean anniversaries, birthdays, holidays that had turned into arguments. Then I saw it. August 14th. Our anniversary. The irony made me smile. The bitter kind. The kind that tasted like closure. I texted back, August 14th. Let's end it where it started. I didn't cry when I packed. Not when I folded his old church suits. The ones that still smelled faintly of cologne and pride. Not when I wrapped the chipped coffee mugs from that Kmart closing sale in old newspaper. Not even when I found the hospital bracelet from my miscarriage in 2013, tucked in the nightstand beside a dead pen and a bent-up Walgreens rewards card. I just packed. Quiet, clean, deliberate. The rhythm of it soothed me. Box, tape, label. Every thud of a closing box felt like reclaiming breath. I kept the radio on low. Old R&B from 96.3 FM. Songs about letting go. It fit the mood too well. I didn't tell Mama until everything was locked in. She's over in Springfield now. Lives in one of those senior communities where folks treat bingo like a full contact sport and potlucks like competition. When she picked up, I could hear the TV blaring The Price is Right in the background. "Valerie," she said. "You all right, baby?" "I'm good, Mama." "You sure? I had a dream you was standing on a porch with no door." I smiled, closing my eyes. "I'm all right. Just rearranging some things." She was quiet for a second, long enough for me to hear the sound of her fan whirring. Then she said, gentle but certain, "You finally selling that house?" I exhaled slow. "How'd you know?" She chuckled, low and knowing. "I've been new. You just needed time to catch up." Her words hit like grace, like the kind of permission you don't ask for but desperately need. The move itself was smooth. I hired 3 local teenagers with a truck that looked held together by prayer and duct tape. They were polite, worked hard, called me ma'am even, though I told them not to. I paid cash and tipped heavy. Told them, "Don't rush, just be careful." When they left, I stood in the middle of the empty living room, walls bare, echoes fresh. I could still see the ghost of furniture outlines in the carpet, the dent in the wall from that one argument in 2016, the place where we hung the "home is where love lives" sign that hadn't been true in years. I cleaned every surface, not for him, for me. I wanted to leave the space lighter than I found it. Then I taped a note to the sugar canister, the one he always used for coffee he never made himself. "I won't be here when you get back, but the title transfer will. V, simple, direct, no punctuation wasted." Then I walked out without looking back. The rental was small but full of air, 2 bedrooms, hardwood floors, a clawfoot tub that looked like it held history. The windows faced east, so every morning light spilled in soft and gold, like peace had finally found my address. No porch swing this time, but I didn't need one. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was earned. I bought a new mug, bright yellow, bold black letters that said, "Stay quiet, stay dangerous." It made me laugh every single morning, loud sometimes, free always, because for the first time in years, I was drinking from something that didn't remind me of compromise. Marcus texted once, "Hope you're happy." I looked at it for a full minute, not angry, not sad, just still. Then I set my phone down. Didn't reply. Not because I was being petty, because I was happy. And some truths, the best ones, don't need a reply. I took another sip from my yellow mug, stretched my legs under the sunlight, and smiled. Because silence, when it's chosen, doesn't mean defeat. It means arrival. The last time I stood in that house, it smelled like lemon pine sol and release, the kind of smell that cut through everything. Years of dust, old arguments, faint cologne trapped in the curtains. It was sharp, clean, final. I wore gloves, the yellow kind with the little grip dots on the palms, and scrubbed every surface like I was erasing ghosts. Not because I had to, because I wanted to leave that place without a single fingerprint on my grief. The sunlight came through the blinds in long, thin ribbons, laying stripes across the floor. Every beam caught a swirl of dust, floating like memory. August 14th, 10 years to the day since we'd signed the mortgage papers, the day we told our families we were going to grow old under that roof. Instead, I grew quiet. He grew arrogant, and the house became a shell we haunted out of habit. I wiped down the kitchen counters one last time. The lemon scent stung my nose, and I smiled at the sting. It felt honest. Pain, but clean pain. D'Andrea pulled up at 10:12 a.m. in her silver Ford Edge, sunlight bouncing off the hood like it was spotlighting her arrival. Church music played low through her. Rolled down window. Some Yolanda Adams track, warm and steady. "You ready?" she asked, sunglasses perched low, clipboard in hand. I nodded. "Been ready." My voice sounded steady. Too steady, like it belonged to somebody else. She smiled that small, knowing smile women share when they recognize strength in each other. Then let's get it done. The buyer was early. Military clean-cut, polite, mid-50s. Skin like he'd seen sun and work. Introduced himself as Mr. Langston. Said he wanted a quiet place to settle with his grandkids for the summer. He took off his cap when he crossed the threshold. That small, old-fashioned gesture that made me like him instantly. "I like that the house feels lived in," he said, looking around the living room like it was already part of his story. His words didn't feel like a knife. They felt like closure. For the first time, I looked at those walls and didn't see arguments. I saw potential, the echo of laughter that might come after mine. He walked through slowly, touching the banister, running his hand over the window frame like he was greeting it. When he smiled, I realized this was how you pass on peace, not through forgiveness, through release. Marcus didn't show up until 1:36 p.m. I heard his truck before I saw it. That same rattling muffler he swore he'd get to next payday. He parked crooked in the driveway, slammed the door, and stalked up the walk like he had something to save. The air shifted. Even the cicadas seemed to pause. Mr. Langston was sitting on the porch steps, sipping a bottle of water D'Andrea had handed him earlier. He nodded polite when Marcus approached. "Afternoon." Marcus frowned. "Who's this?" I didn't answer, didn't look at him. I turned to D'Andrea. "Are the papers ready?" She nodded, flipping through the folder. "Just need your signature, Ms. Harris." Marcus's voice cut through the summer breeze. "You really gon' sign this mess today? Our anniversary?" I finally looked at him. "No, Marcus, your anniversary. I already left this marriage a long time ago. This is just the paperwork." His jaw tightened. His hand twitched like he didn't know whether to point or clench. He stepped closer. Too close. "You being spiteful," he said. "You ain't gotta do this." I didn't flinch, didn't blink. "You did it, Marcus," I said, my voice low even. "Every time you called me extra, every time you told me I was lucky to be here, every time you laughed at my peace like it was weakness." His eyes darted, searching for something to fight back with. I held up the pen, gold trim, smooth weight, bought just for this day. "Now I'm signing in ink," I said, "but I already signed in silence." He froze. Even D'Andrea paused mid-page, looking at me like I'd just given a benediction. Then he tried guilt, said I was throwing away history, said I was embarrassing him in front of family, said no man would ever take me seriously if I kept acting like this. I smiled without smiling. Good thing I stopped needing validation from men who don't even clean their side of the sink. DeAndrea coughed into her hand, trying not to laugh. Mr. Langston didn't even try to hide his grin. He looked at me like I'd said something holy. Maybe I had. The closing took 10 minutes. Initials on the first page, signature on the last. The pen glided smoother than I expected, like the paper had been waiting for this moment too. When I capped the pen, the soft click echoed through the room. The sound of my freedom being notarized. Even the air felt lighter after that, like the walls had exhaled. I handed the keys over, not with flourish, just calm. They were warm from my palm, small, ordinary things that had once carried all my security and all my fear. "Take good care of it," I told Mr. Langston. "I will," he said, meeting my eyes. "You kept it with love. I can tell." I nodded. I did my best. Marcus stood by the mailbox, arms crossed, face blank. He looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, just reduced. Like his anger had nowhere left to go now that I wasn't there to absorb it. He didn't say another word, didn't yell, didn't follow me. The silence between us, the one that used to choke me, now felt like space. Space I earned. Space I intended to keep. We didn't hug, didn't argue, didn't even nod goodbye. I walked down the driveway slow, each step like peeling off an old layer. Got in my car, my maroon Chevy Impala with the worn steering wheel cover that had seen me through too many tears and commutes. The seatbelt clicked. The gospel music came on low. "I'm Still Here" by the Williams Brothers, and I smiled. Not out of joy exactly, out of relief. I pulled out of the driveway without looking back in the rearview mirror, because I already knew what I left behind, and for once, it wasn't myself. The house grew smaller in the mirror until it disappeared completely, like it was finally letting me go too. Outside, the road opened wide. Sunlight stretched ahead in long golden streaks, and in that moment, I didn't feel homeless. I felt weightless. Because freedom don't always roar. Sometimes it just hums in the quiet between goodbye and arrival. The following Thanksgiving, the house smelled like sage, sweet potatoes, and quiet. Not that sharp, cold kind of quiet that used to hang between two people trying not to say the wrong thing. This was the soft kind, the kind that hums between slow songs and deep breaths, the kind that feels earned. I'd had the oven going since 7 a.m., turkey thighs braising slow, greens simmering low, cornbread cooling on the counter beside a single wine glass. Steam fogged up the kitchen window, catching the morning light like it was painted gold. It had been 3 months since I moved into my new place. A small craftsman-style rental on the corner of a quiet street in Champaign. Creaky floors that sang when I walked, linen curtains that danced when the breeze came through, a clawfoot tub that made every bath feel like a baptism. It wasn't fancy, but every inch of it listened when I breathed. That mattered more than any mortgage ever did. I didn't decorate much, just a table runner from Dollar Tree, deep burgundy with fake gold stitching, a thrifted centerpiece with orange faux leaves, my grandmother's old Pyrex sitting proud in the middle like an heirloom crown. There was no man to carve the turkey, no one to turn the TV too loud during the game, no heavy sighs, no side eyes, no small cruelties pretending to be conversation, just me, a full plate, and the sound of Aretha playing low in the background, daydreaming melting into rock steady, the kind of playlist that reminds a woman she survived. I didn't miss him, not even a little. What I missed was peace when I didn't know how to find it. Now that I had it, I guarded it like breath. He called once in October, blocked number, straight to voicemail. All he said was, "Hope you're proud of yourself." No apology, no reflection, just spite disguised as pride. I didn't delete it, I just never played it again. It sat there in my phone like a reminder, not of him, but of how far I'd come from needing closure. The title transfer went through smooth. No hiccups, no last-minute drama. A week later, DeAndrea mailed me the final closing documents in a neat manila envelope. Gold paperclip, blue ink, sticky note right on top. Congrats on choosing yourself. I pinned that note to my fridge, right next to a free calendar from the Champaign County Library and a small printout that read, "You can miss someone and still be better without them." I'd stare at it some mornings while the coffee brewed, the hum of the machine filling the quiet. Truth was, I didn't miss him. I missed who I used to be before him, the version of me that laughed loud, that believed small things, like good mornings and fresh flowers, could still mean something. I was getting her back, slowly, stubbornly, like light returning after a long power outage. Lincoln Elementary had offered me a promotion, assistant principal. I said no, not because I couldn't handle it, because I finally learned to live without climbing. I didn't need a title to prove my worth, I just needed time. So instead, I started something smaller, something quieter. A weekend tutoring program I called Quiet Roots, Saturday mornings, community center off Maple Avenue, folding tables, dollar store snacks, kids with big hearts and bigger dreams. We read books, practiced math, talked about the kind of futures they couldn't see yet but could already feel. One Saturday, a little girl named Ayana looked up from her workbook and said, "Miss Valerie, you always look like you know a secret." I laughed, that deep belly kind I hadn't heard from myself in years. "Maybe I do," I said, because maybe the secret was that peace doesn't come loud. It creeps in soft, after the yelling stops, after the healing starts. Silence, I realized, isn't the absence of sound. It's the presence of self. Marcus? Last I heard, he was living in a 2-bedroom near Rockford. Tried to buy another house, but didn't qualify. Guess it's hard when the person who handled the paperwork and the patience walks away with her name and her credit intact. I didn't celebrate that. I just acknowledged it. The way you acknowledge a storm passed and didn't take you with it. He became a lesson I'd already passed, and I didn't need to retake it. Sometimes I drive past our old street, not to spy, just to remember. Magnolia Lane still looked the same, the cracked sidewalk, the mailbox that leaned just a little. But the energy was different now. Mr. Langston had planted mums by the mailbox, deep orange, full bloom, hung wind chimes on the porch, the kind that sang even when the wind barely moved. The house looked gentle. One evening, I pulled over, rolled my window down. A little girl, maybe his granddaughter, came running across the lawn in bunny slippers and a tutu, laughing like sunlight. She spun in circles, arms wide, hair flying, her joy so big it filled the air. For a moment, my eyes stung, not from sadness, from recognition, because that laughter, that light, it used to live there, and now it did again. The house didn't need my pain to keep breathing. It had found new joy, and somehow that made everything worth it. Later that night, I wrote a letter I never sent. Marcus, I was never ungrateful. I was tired of shrinking, of begging, of being treated like a guest in a home I helped build. You mistook my silence for safety. But silence was how I loaded my power. I didn't leave because I hated you. I left because I finally loved me. I folded the letter carefully, placed it in a ceramic dish on my porch, and set it on fire. The paper curled in on itself, black edges glowing orange. The smoke rose soft and slow, curling like ribbon. When it was nothing but ash, I exhaled. The kind of exhale that empties you, not in sorrow, but in peace. This morning I made coffee in my yellow mug, the one that says stay quiet, stay dangerous. Steam rolled up in slow waves. The smell filled the room like a promise. I sat by the window, wrapped in my robe, watching frost lace the corners of the glass. Outside, the world looked still. Inside, I finally was, and I thought, Some women seek revenge. I just seek rest. Some women throw plates. I call realtors. Some women wait to be chosen. But me, I sold the house and chose myself. If this story struck a chord, hit like, subscribe, and tell me what you think in the comments.